the shoulder, but when I get to the end of,
Sit in that chair.
huh?
You're gonna go sit in that chair.
Yeah, exactly. You could cozy up. Um, I'm going to talk about the iPhone here first, and then let me introduce two of Gary's colleagues, Jane Glass and Eric Corral, to share their thoughts and stories with us. You come up, and yeah, I think that
Yeah, I can just
one rolls right into the other.
Stand right here, and then you smell.
Then you'll be introducing him up. I think then come back down, and I think we actually are. Check with Kelly Gender, but I think we're all at the speaker. Like anybody who's speaking, I think is you.
Kelly says she didn't put me and Eric at a table. She put me in chairs where we sit.
All right, never mind.
Whatever.
Then grab 2 seats at that table there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so that you're close enough that because he'll come up, he'll probably be brief,
Yeah.
and then we're still gonna come back up and get a picture.
Oh,
You guys.
yes. Okay.
So actually, like for pictures, and I'll talk to the photographer. Like when we come back up, he'll be here. You guys just wait there, because it's just for the view. Well, no, I think we'll bring him over here, present, get picture, and that's the backdrop that way. So like, I'll have him grab this. Yeah, and if he wants to take his Mac, he can take his Mac too.
What time am I seeing?
Good evening. We're just about to start. If I could ask folks to grab that last bite and have a seat. So good evening and welcome. For those of you I don't know, my name is John Moran, and it is my pleasure to serve as the principal of Cheverus High School. And for the past decade, it's also been my pleasure to work with the three people who we honor here tonight: Gary Nielsen, Michael Komich, and Father Pecoraro. To begin our evening and our festivities, I'd like to invite the Superior of the Jesuit community, Father Brian Conley, to lead us in prayer.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Loving God, we thank you and we praise you. We praise you for your goodness, for the beauty that is all around us. We thank you for the many gifts that you have given us. We thank you for the opportunity to serve you through educating the youth. This evening, we thank you for the gifts of Father Bob Pecoraro, Mr. Michael Komich, Dr. Gary Nielsen, for the years of dedicated service to Cheverus High School. Each in his own way has demonstrated the Magis, have served your greater glory through the service of Cheverus. We seek to build a community that is religious, loving, committed to justice, open to growth, and intellectually competent. Help us to listen well as friends and colleagues, share how these individuals have embodied these principles, each in their own way, providing role models for the whole Cheverus community. May their examples inspire us in our service to Cheverus and commitment to forming this community. As these men begin new chapters in their lives, we ask you to bless them and keep them. We ask that their memories of Cheverus always bring joy and satisfaction. We ask you to bless them with good health and the energy to serve you in new and creative ways. May they know your loving presence in their lives, and may the Spirit guide them in all they do. We ask you to bless the Cheverus community, that the people we honor this evening will inspire those who follow, that your Holy Spirit will guide us in deepening our commitment to mission, that we might faithfully carry out this mission for many years to come. We ask your blessing upon the community, on the food that we will share, on the fellowship that unites us, and that you especially bless Father Bob, Michael, and Gary, that they might know our esteem and affection. We ask this in the name of all that is holy. Amen.
Thank you, Father Brian. Tonight is a joyous occasion. You could feel it in the room over the past hour. I always hate when I have to be the person to stop that, and hopefully there's a lot more of it when we're done with our speaking program here this evening. Sure, our joy may be tinged a bit with sadness that our colleagues are moving on, and Cheverus will not be the same next September in their absence. But we are also here tonight to celebrate Cheverus and our work together. We're going to share some stories, laughter, perhaps a few barbs along the way, as we pay tribute to Gary and Michael and Father Bob. As teachers, staff members, administrators, a Jesuit, and a president, these three men embodied all that makes Cheverus great, and they represent each of us who call Cheverus home. Now, usually at the end of an event like this, just as everyone is getting ready to rush out the door, I quickly remember that I need to thank everyone who made the night possible. Tonight, I want to flip the script on that. Back in the fall, when Michael announced that he'd be retiring at the end of the year, and we already knew that Gary and Father Bob would be finishing their time as well, we recognized that with over 75 years of experience between them, we needed something special. I asked Randy Shaw and the advancement team if they could put something together, knowing that it would be happening during one of the busiest times of the year for them, and they didn't hesitate. Please join me in thanking them for hosting this spectacular event for us tonight. Two final notes as we begin. As most of you know, Jeanette Wyckoff has been putting together a remembrance book for Gary and Michael and Father Bob. Many thanks to her and for those of you who've contributed to that effort. Thank you, Jeanette. I'm also happy to announce that the 2026 yearbook has been dedicated to all three of them. And I have a preview. Okay, so to begin our tributes, I have a visual aid for some of the younger members in our audience. When Doc Nielsen arrived at Cheverus in 1996, this is what an iPhone looked like. To show you how, and it weighs about 80 pounds, by the way. To show you how far we've come in 30 years, in order to get this thing, I had to put in a requisition through Maintenance Direct and submit a PO through Sage Accounting. These orders were then directed onto our network, our school's network, into the cloud, all of which Gary built and installed, just so that our facilities director, Gene Coffin, could steal this thing from Gary's office. So we put your name on it. Now that you have that as context, let me introduce two of Gary's colleagues, Jane Glass and Erica Ryle, to share their thoughts and stories with us. Erica and Jane.
Good evening and welcome, so many friends of Cheverus. Before I speak about Gary, I want to thank Father Bob. Thank you for your years of steady leadership, your faithful service, and care for our community. And to Michael, where are you? There you are. Michael, so as I prepared for this evening, I fondly recalled our time at the Jesuit Symposium in Santa Clara in California, and you rented a car. Do you remember driving, I think it was pretty much the entire science department, to Half Moon Bay, and we definitely stopped at the Pacific to put our feet in the water. I'm eternally grateful for all the support you've given our programs, especially the Swans Island Marine Biology Immersion trips and the recent Maine Outdoor Learning Initiative grant. But who knew that a $66,000 award could generate quite so many spreadsheets, signatures, and surprises? But seriously, thank you for all you've done navigating all things financial at Cheverus. Thank you. So onward to my dear friend, Dr. Gary Nielsen. I'm over here, Gary. When I joined the science department at Cheverus in August of 2001, you can't believe how lucky I felt to have the science giants in the office next door. Recent Magis Award winner, Hank St. Pierre. And one of tonight's honorees, Gary Nielsen. I quickly gained not just one, but two work husbands. In season 6 of Grey's Anatomy, Dr. Miranda Bailey and Dr. Richard Weber are famously referred to as work husband and work wife. Dr. Callie Torres used the terms to describe an intense, supportive, and strictly platonic bond between colleagues. Hank retired 8 years ago, and his wife Pat introduces me as his ex-work wife. And now with Gary's retirement, I'm officially posting a job for a new work husband. Here's a little picture. It needs to be posted on servingschools.com, John. Okay. So applicants must meet the following criteria. Requirement number 1, you need to love the outdoors, and you need to be able to lead students on trips. Gary has helped out with countless outing club trips, but one of the most memorable hikes that we've had together was when Gary taught AP Bio. Climbing Katahdin was part of the curriculum. The year I chaperoned with Gary, for whatever reason, our crew climbed Katahdin via Able Trail, crossing the knife's edge, and descending Cathedral. This is a grueling, exposed hike that most groups take about 10 to 12 hours to complete. We did it in 9.5. At one point, we realized there was a student who didn't get the memo about stopping for lunch at the summit. And we're eating lunch, and there's this yellow raincoat. And I was like, isn't that one of, oh. And Gary, without hesitation, ran across the knife's edge, caught up to the student, and brought him back. So Gary crossed the most dangerous stretch of this hike 3 times. That's not leadership, that's heroism. Requirement number 2, you need to be creative. For several years, our department, best department ever, we had themed Halloween costumes. And Gary would stay up all hours making them. One year, we were the Incredibles, and Gary printed t-shirts with a modified Chevrolet C and Cross superhero symbol. I have it. I don't remember what year this was. So the yellow is pretty faded, but he made these, and we had little masks, the whole department. Another year, Gary printed CSI badges that were so realistic. Kevin Haley questioned their validity. Like, it was really good. Requirement number 3, you need to be intuitive and thoughtful. I walked into the science office one morning to get a cup of coffee. Work husband number 1 brewed the daily grind. But I abruptly left the office. Apparently, I was pretty green in the gills, and Gary did not miss it. And he sent me a hearty congratulations. He was the first to figure out I was pregnant with my son Owen, who is now 19, and plagued with morning sickness. Gary's wife suggested bringing in a particular brand of cookie to quell a queasy work wife's stomach. Requirement number 4, you need to love musicals. Gary introduced us to Hamilton way before it was cool. He would play it in the faculty lunchroom. He graciously shared his Portland Ovation season tickets. I remember seeing Beauty and the Beast with my family, and a really fun night out with Gary and Kathy, Hank and Pat to see Spam-A-Lot. And I think we missed out on opportunity there with the Halloween costume. We could have gone down the hallway with the coconuts. You don't know? All right. Requirement number 5, you need to be generous. If passing on your tickets wasn't enough, Gary's generosity is legend. Whether it's Nielsen Children hand-me-downs, dog sweaters, loaning the outing club piles of snowshoes, allowing my family to stay in your Portland condo, I could go on and on about the kindnesses that Gary has extended. Requirement number 6, you need to bring in treats. What will we do without all the baked goods and the mocha deliveries? In the early years, we had to protect these delicacies from the coyotes. They're here tonight. I see them. Those were our baked goods, not yours. All right, I'll definitely need my new work husband to be handy around a kitchen and to know my favorite Coveside coffee order by heart to get me through rough afternoons with the freshmen. Requirement number 7, you need to have endless patience. I can certainly admit to needing Gary's technical assistance every now and then, but the ultimate test of Gary's patience was actually pretty recently, and it was when the squid from marine biology defrosted in our science office refrigerator all over the floor. Yeah, you're imagining the stench. I know you are. It didn't matter how much I cleaned and scrubbed, and I'm a pretty OCD person. It didn't matter how much bleach I used. Our office smelled like Custom House Wharf on a hot summer's day. It was bad. And then I find Gary, uncomplainingly, he's pouring boiling water through the refrigerator overflow tank. And it solved the problem. It didn't smell anymore. And that's only one of the examples of the many ways that Gary uncomplainingly, unfailingly solves problems, be it with your mouse or your melted mollusk. I think I'm quickly realizing something here, and that is this work husband job posting is impossible to fill. Chevres is better because of Gary's generosity, his creativity, his patience, his friendship, his love for this community. And I'm pretty sure that Dr. Gary Nielsen is irreplaceable. Oh, wait, is that Patrick Dempsey? All right, while I may never find a replacement for either of my work husbands, I am incredibly lucky to introduce someone who has been a cornerstone at Chevres in her own right. So to tell you more about Gary, please welcome former Magis Award recipient and soon-to-be Chevres IT coordinator, Jane Glass.
Good evening. I'd like to say thank you to Father Bob and to Mike Comich also, but I'm here to talk about Gary, so I'm going to get started. Let me get my notes. How do I reset the print server? What's the password to the firewall? Where's the, oh, wrong notes. Sorry. I have different ones. Yeah. Okay, what to say about Gary? Erica covered his generosity, commitment to the community, all-around helpfulness, and baked goods. But she left out some aspects. Gary is a trickster. He likes to tell people he grew up on a little island off the East Coast. Manhattan. That island is Manhattan. If you say, "Can I ask you a question?" he'll reply, "You just did." Erica mentioned his science department Halloween costumes, but he also made shirts for the science and science-adjacent people for a dress-down day when guidance asked everyone to wear college shirts. Gary's shirts were for all the houses at Hogwarts. I must say, Sorting Hat Gary got the houses right. Some Gryffindor, a definite Slytherin, an affable Hufflepuff. Around Christmas time, little trees were found sitting on the circular windows to the classrooms. 3D printed Easter eggs appeared in mailboxes. During this past April break, I was with a group including Gary and Kathy Nielsen walking the Camino de Santiago in Spain. We walked 101 kilometers. On the second day, when Team Tortuga was flagging a little bit, Gary helpfully told us that we were 18 minutes from the hotel. Knowing Gary, I asked, "Is that driving or walking?" We had another 2 hours of walking. While on the Camino, Gary would hide treats for others in the group and send photo clues of where to find them. He brought 4 or 5 cameras with him, and a tiny photo printer. Sometimes we would get to a cafe that the faster groups recommended and find a tiny photo of our group from dinner the night before, nestled in the stone wall. I chose to find this whimsical and not at all like we were being watched. One of Gary's earliest successes came after a Province Day meeting at Holy Cross. We managed to leave one faculty member behind, and that person had to get a ride to South Station and take C&J back to Portland. As luck would have it, Gary drew that person's name for Secret Santa. That once stranded teacher got a Matchbox car bus and a note-perfect recreation of a bus ticket with the correct locations and dates and times. The recipient did not appreciate the joke and tried to figure out who did this. Gary was surprised and a little disappointed that it wasn't obvious that this was his handiwork. Gary is a tinkerer. He builds, He takes apart, he repurposes. When the teachers started wearing Fitbits and doing daily or weekly challenges, Gary turned his treadmill at home into a walking desk so he could work through the night and beat everyone's step count. A stall in the bathroom by the library was missing a latch for over a year. The company kept sending the wrong part. Gary 3D printed a new one. I think we're on the second iteration now because the first one was purple and this one's gold. Way to stick with the theme. He tries out the latest hardware and software just to see how it works. If he says he's trying a new Raspberry Pi, I don't know if he's baking or making a mini computer. He builds coffee makers out of chemistry supplies, has a bike that folds into a briefcase, and carries around more tools on his person than I own. This might sound like a stereotypical IT guy, but Gary's not an IT guy. Gary is a teacher. Behind the gadgets, the robots, the spreadsheets matching all the switches and servers in the entire Chevrolet network, Gary is first and foremost a teacher. Solving IT-related problems is a vehicle for him to show staff, faculty, and students how to do something new. If he comes to help you with your email, he's going to teach you shortcuts for organizing your files. If he helps you log onto your computer, he's going to show you better ways to store and retrieve those passwords. His goal is to teach at least one thing to everyone he helps with an IT problem, whether or not they want to learn it. As a teacher, Gary doesn't just tell you the answer. He gives you enough information and prodding so that you figure it out yourself. Because this teacher is a student at heart. You can see the kid in Gary and how he talks about the wonders of science. That sense of wonder and joy is what makes the trickster find ways to amuse, keeps the tinkerer curious, and animates the teacher. I respect Gary's experience and expertise, but what I'm gonna miss is rolling my eyes at the bad jokes, listening to detailed technical jargon that I mostly understand, dealing with problems as puzzles instead of chores, and the baked goods, definitely the baked goods. Please join me in celebrating our friend, our colleague, our teacher, Gary Nielsen.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Erica. TLDR, typical teacher parable. So usually when you're up here, you're asked, how'd you become a teacher? What made you like that? What expectation did you have with that? As my children and most of my students will tell you, I always rework questions. I never answer them the right way. So as early as I can remember, I was a curious kid. I wanted to learn. For example, my dad puts down a hammer. My brother can verify this. And I pick it up and I start trying to hammer. I was 13 months old, and after getting stitches in my forehead from the claw on the hammer was never put down again within my reach. I was also always wanted to share. And you hear a little bit about that. Everything I've ever wanted to learn, I've wanted to tell people. So there's no, why did I become a teacher? I think I always was one. Teachers love learning and sharing what they learned. And I do that all the time. All right, why Chevrolet? I answered an ad in the newspaper. Wife found that. Actually, at first, before actually answering the ad, I called up one of my old teachers from my old high school, happened to be a Jesuit one, and asked if I would be a good fit. They said, sure. That was Father Ken Bowler. Now that I know how rapidly the Jesuit information network works in the background, I probably had the job before I applied. Anyway, so I started at Cheverus with a smorgasbord of classes and gradually settled into teaching science to freshmen and sophomores. Freshmen are amazing. They are so full of potential and absolutely no desire to show any of it in class. I had so much fun watching them learn that science is not math but observation. Things do not fall forever. Many of their labs would be returned with a big BS on them. No, it stands for bad science, okay? Because they just didn't do the observations. And unlike lemmings, freshmen will follow each other off a cliff. For every question about buoyancy, they'd consistently pick the wrong answer. They just follow each other as a class, right into the traps. I also taught AP biology, and as you heard, I got the opportunity to walk in another teacher's footsteps, literally. I would take them on a 12-mile hike, walk actually, in a park. It's Baxter State Park. Did have a mile of elevation gain up and down, and as you heard, there were some fun expeditions running across Knife's Edge. And at about 4,000 feet, you reach the tableland. Tableland is this beautiful expanse of rocks everywhere, and you can sort of see the summit off in the distance. It's not much higher at that point. The only thing above you is clouds, just a few. Most of them are actually below you. Everything is below you. And if you ever wonder why Teilhard de Chardin likes to celebrate Mass on the top of mountains, just go up to the tablelands and you'll answer that question very easily. But being a teacher, I have to come up with questions for these kids there. And so I'd ask my students questions like, why are the small rocks that we're walking on that make up the trail, why are they pink? And all the rocks around you are gray. So, like everything, you need to take my question and you need to rework it to make it the answer obvious. Katahdin is made of pink feldspar. So all the rocks should be pink. Why are the other rocks gray? And that's because there's lichen on them. So it's a simple answer to that. And maybe the answer to that first question as to why I became a teacher follows a similar pattern. I stand on a pink trail, and I can see a summit in front of me. And all around me are gray rocks. I don't know where they lead, but I know where that pink trail leads. Thank you. Thank you to my brother for coming, my family, my extended family, and thank all of you. Have a great night. Can I bring this back to my office so that Jane has to deal with it?
And you get the lamp.
Oh.
You can hold the lamp. All right.
Nice job. Thank you, John.
Many thanks to Erica and Jane and Gary for the stories and the laughs. To Michael Komich. When Michael Komich arrived at Cheverus, dinosaurs roamed the earth. Portland was still part of the European continent, and Steve Delvey was in just his second year of teaching at Cheverus High School. As you saw with the presentation to Gary, if you stay long enough at Cheverus, we'll provide you with a complete living room set, inscribed with your name in the Chevres seal in case you forget who you are and where you worked. Whether Deb wanted it or not, Michael completed the living room set years ago. At which point I joked the only thing left to give him would be a toaster with his name on it. There are a lot of Michael Komich stories to tell. Too many for us to share up here, to share all of them. But to give it his best effort, please join me in welcoming Chevres alum, coach, and vice chair of our Board of Trustees, Nate Braun.
There has never been a person at Chevres that embodies the mission of our school more than Michael Komich. I'll say it again. There has never been a person at Chevres that embodies the mission of our school more than Michael Komich. The most beautiful and sometimes most frustrating part about that statement is that Michael himself does not know it, and he may never believe it. He is likely the only person in this room that doesn't realize that he is a hero of the Chevres story. And by now, I suspect he is also completely uncomfortable with me saying this, which is absolutely perfect. As I was walking through Loyola's hallway the other day, a pin board caught my eye. Displayed on it were the 4 Jesuit Universal Apostolic Preferences. They are walking with the excluded, the poor, the marginalized, the vulnerable, journeying with our youth in the creation of a hope-filled future, caring for our common home, and showing the way to God. Michael, or as some people refer to him as MSK, immediately came to mind. Over the years knowing Michael, I often felt like we took advantage of his deep devotion and dedication to doing good in all scenarios in exhaustive fashion. This past year, while reading Jesuit Gregory Boyle's book, Barking to the Choir, I learned a different perspective. Boyle says, how can someone take my advantage when I'm giving it to them? And that's exactly what Michael does. He gives them his advantage. I had the pleasure of talking to a lot of Michael's good friends before tonight. One of them was Charlie. Charlie went to college with Michael. He's sitting right over here. Charlie told me this great story. He told me a story about a girlfriend that he had up visiting St. Francis College. And unfortunately, his girlfriend had to go home early to UMass. She forgot that she had an exam. Now, obviously, Charlie naturally was scrambling to find a way to get a vehicle to get her back to school. He didn't have a car of his own. And after some finagling, he had procured access to a lovely vehicle, a white Dodge Dart with a rag as a gas cap. And I got the impression from Charlie that the gas cap may have been the least of his worries with this car. Upon hearing this, Michael said to Charlie, Charles. And it was at this point that Charlie told me he never calls him Charles. But Charles, my father would not allow me, and I am not allowing you, to get in that Molotov cocktail and drive anybody anywhere. And so Charles said, well, I'll just borrow your car. And Michael said, no. That car was a gift from my father. So to do this right, I will have to get dressed, and I will drive you. You see, Michael had been in his sweats. He was getting ready to watch a Patriots playoff game, and he had it all mapped out, and he dropped it all to take Charlie and his girlfriend 4.5 hours to UMass and back. 9 hours total, back to St. Francis College. This is an example of how Michael gives his advantage. I talk to a lot of people, colleagues, both current and former, coaches, students, friends, and of course his family. There are a lot of recurring themes, so many stories, and plenty of references to what we all call Michaelisms. I'll give you one of Michaelism that is my favorite. And if you've ever received an email from Michael, you'll know it right away. I have never received an email from Michael that didn't start with the word dear, as if it was a handwritten letter from an era gone by. But for some reason, it just feels so appropriate coming from Michael in this era. And Michael has also never not responded to an email. But he's also quite explicit about when he can and can't give you the response you're looking for. It goes something like this. Due to a previously scheduled family obligation, I will not be able to respond to you until ... I love Michaelisms. I will not be able to do Michael justice in the time that I have up here, but I promise I will give you enough. I will give you enough to know how much he loves, how much he is loved, and to express the gratitude for the multi-generational impact he has had on all of us and will continue to have on all of us. In March, I had the honor of going on Kairos with Michael. It's a 3-day faith formation retreat with students. It's led by Roger Silly. There's 35 juniors, 3 other adult leaders other than myself. Michael was one of them. We were roommates for the trip. More like 2 guys sleeping in a summer camp bunk of 36 empty beds, twin beds, sleeping bags, stacked mattresses, all the comfort we could ever desire. And no surprise, Michael is a phenomenal roommate. But one of Roger's opening lines in this retreat is, "You are exactly where you're supposed to be." And he was right. Michael and I were exactly where we were supposed to be. It was a full circle moment, culminating in a 27-year history I have with Michael. 27 years ago, I entered Cheverus as a sophomore transfer student. I'm sure Michael will remember it. He remembers everything. I knew exactly 2.5 names on my first day. One of them was Mr. Komich. We were not on a first name basis yet. But my father, who was a hockey coach and a former referee, knew Michael a little, and knowing Michael and knowing he was at Cheverus gave my parents the comfort to send me to the school in the first place. And that was the first time Michael had a quiet influence on my life, and it wasn't the last. You see, Michael and I share this passion for hockey that both of our wives would deem to be a real problem. And as you know from Charlie's story, Michael went to undergrad at St. Francis College, now University of New England. And by the way, if you went to St. Francis College, I feel like you still call it St. Francis College. It's one of those pride things. But Michael played hockey there. And he had a coach. His name was Bob Riley. And he had a line mate. His name was Jack Lowry. Guys, don't worry, I'm not going to talk about any Jack Lowry stories. We'll leave those for later. His friend Sean describes him as a great teammate, competitor. He describes that he's not the biggest or the strongest, but he never shied away from charging into a corner for a battle against a bigger, stronger foe, or sacrificing his body to block a shot. I also learned that they used to refer to Michael as Comey, and boy am I disappointed that I just learned that nickname. Michael's wife, Deb, told me a quick story about attending one of Michael's games with his mother, and that his mother was beside herself that Michael had been given a penalty, to which I believe Debbie responded, "Are you kidding me? He's been beating that guy up all game. He deserved it." While I believe Debbie, I simply cannot imagine Michael getting a penalty in a hockey game. He's been a referee as long as I've ever known him. But that's the thing. Athletics has an amazing way of connecting generations of people. Parents with kids, alumni of a program, and having long-standing coaches across time. It's the kinship of shared service, of shared experience. And when I arrived at Cheverus as a sophomore, my hockey coach was none other than Bob Riley. And for the 2 years that followed, it was Michael's line mate, Jack Lowry. Oh, the power of kinship. And Michael, these men who you brought into my life, and don't you pretend like you didn't, along with some good old home encouragement from my father, taught me that consistent hard work and being a great teammate led to lifelong friendships and gave you the skills to overcome any adversity. It was the same experience that brought me back to Sheriff's 5 years ago to be an assistant hockey coach here. Michael's love for sports is undeniable. In addition to refereeing hockey, he also officiates lacrosse and volleyball. I'm just waiting for him to stop being lazy and add a fourth or fifth sport, maybe baseball, umpire, although I think he's probably already done that. Michael loves sports, and it's through this love that he journeys with our youth. And admittedly, I was not as good of a student as everyone remembers. In fact, I got my first and only ever D from Mr. Dr. Gary Nielsen. Sophomore biology class. I've never gotten to thank him for it. It was the kind of kick in the behind that a struggling Shavarian needed. Doc, thank you. But almost every student deals with the great stress of applying to college. I vividly remember being devastated when I was rejected by Holy Cross. It had been my first choice since early my junior year, and like most young people, I assumed it would work out perfectly. Even now, it conjures a feeling of heartbreak. I had also applied to Babson and Bentley. Babson actually may have been even more of a stretch for me than Holy Cross. And I wasn't necessarily a shoo-in at Bentley either, because my smarter, more beautiful wife attended Bentley. And we still have our opinions about the Babson-Bentley debate. But in my time of despair, I am pretty sure that Michael, unbeknownst to me, because I never remember asking, either wrote a letter of recommendation or made a phone call, or both, to Babson College, where he had received his MBA prior to coming to Cheverus. I was not rejected at Babson College. I probably should have been. And very much like that line in the famous Robert Frost poem we all know, that has made all the difference. Michael never mentioned it, never looked for any attribution, never so much as hinted it. He just gives his advantage. And as much credit as Michael deserves tonight from me, it was actually Debbie that gave me my first in-office job. Between both my freshman and sophomore years in college, working at MEMIC, and that gave me a very distinct edge as I entered the workforce a couple years later after college graduation. And you always remember the people that get you where you, that help you get where you are, especially when they don't need to. Michael and Debbie Comich will forever be on my list. I thank you, and I am forever grateful. Going back to those 3 days at Kairos with Michael, I want to tell you they were surreal, but they were so real all at the same time. As I listened to Michael speak to the students during one of our retreat sessions, I felt the expanse of Michael's love for these young people fall over the room like a warm blanket on the coldest day of the year. It was in that moment, 27 years after I entered Cheverus, that it actually came full circle. He was doing for them what he had done for me, giving of himself. I had just been one student. I was just one of so many students that Michael, in his way, quietly, humbly gave of himself to propel us forward in life. And before tonight, I asked for some data. I wanted to hit you with some hard facts. Things like the number of students that have come to the school since Michael started, the number of tuition assistance meetings he had sat in, and the total amount of financial aid that had been doled out over 35 years. You know, that hard-hitting CFO stuff. Well, we tried. We couldn't do it. Because if we wanted to do it with any sense of detail, we would have to ask Michael. Here's what we did gather. It's thousands of students. Somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500. He'll give you the exact answer later. Thousands of tuition assistance meetings. Just to give you a sense, there was 120 of those just last year. And when it comes to financial aid, tens of millions of dollars. I find that the amazing thing about Michael is that we never get to see any of that stuff. He's remarkable. He does so much that we don't see. We feel the impact, but we don't know the origin. It's often the details. It's in the mundane of the everyday. And quite often, it's the difficult work that others seek to avoid. Michael has also shaped how we take care of our students and our families. When he sees a family that is on the margin, the ones that have a difficult story, an inability to pay, an obstacle to physically get their child to Chevress, he embraces them as an opportunity to include, not a lost cause, not an easy exclusion. This is perhaps one of the greatest qualities that Michael and Father Bob share. If there's ever a decision to be had between a nice to have or a kind of need to have and making Chevress available to that next student, they choose the student every time. And that is worth celebrating. And this is how Michael walks with the excluded, the poor, and those in the margin. He gives them his advantage in this way so that they may be included in our community. And while Michael's worried about the next student, he's also worried about our home at 267 Ocean Avenue. I did a little research. I got a little list. In the mid-90s, the school underwent some major technological infrastructure projects, at least for its time. The highlights were a new computer lab, internet connectivity, email. Then there were significant upgrades to the Shea Fields in the 90s, bringing modern infrastructure to these outdoor facilities. And then there was the hallmark transition to coeducation 25 years ago, which we all know has just enriched the school immensely. The construction of the Keegan Gymnasium in 2005, a multi-million-dollar effort that required 6 years of planning, capital support, and financial ingenuity and fortitude. Countless modernizations, upgrades at both Loyola Hall and the main building, boiler replacements, HVAC repairs, an athletic field water main break, a leaking roof in the chapel that happened twice. And of course, the infamous grub infestation on the athletic fields, just to name a few. And most recently, the new turf field project. Now, I don't think Michael has ever harmed a soul in his life. Those grubs never stood a chance. Michael invested hours pleading with the city of Portland to use an inorganic pesticide on the field, and after being denied multiple times, despite the fact that they used the same pesticide at Hadlock Field and Riverside Country Club, Michael researched a different organic route, something about giving grubs diabetes. Honestly, I don't know. But I bet you Michael could talk about it for hours, and I would listen to him talk about it for hours, because Michael has an innate ability for the meticulous. Of course, he didn't do this alone. During his tenure, Michael worked together with, I'm pretty sure it's 6 school presidents, including Father Bob for nearly a decade. But every stone arch needs a keystone, and every foundation needs a cornerstone. Michael, for 35 years, has been that meticulously placed cornerstone that cares for our common home. Over that same time, Chevress and Michael experienced heartaches, setbacks, uncertainty, and suffering. But Michael, together with the leaders of the school, navigated through some of the heaviest storms a private Jesuit Catholic institution in Maine may ever face. Multiple global recessions, the crisis of sexual abuse in the church and schools, and more recently, a global pandemic. Any of these may have caused another man to waver, but not Michael. He knows how to navigate uncertainty, pass through storms, go very long distances through dedication, discipline, and grace. Michael's friend offered me another classic Michael story. His son Ryan and JP's son Brian played senior baseball together. On a Thursday, they had won the state championship in Bangor. But there was one problem. The regional tournament was the next day in New Jersey, and no one was prepared to go to New Jersey. So in comes Michael with a very Michael solution. That short Chevress bus that has gone by many names over the years. My personal favorite is the Stag and Wagon. But on that Friday morning, Michael made the call to procure the use of that stag van. But this is Michael we're talking about. That same morning, he also procured the necessary insurance to cover any liability for possible damages during the trip. And well, if he was going to do this right, he was going to drive that thing to and from New Jersey. I heard this story from both JP and Michael's son Ryan's perspectives. I can confirm two things for you. The first is that for almost the entire ride, a 9-hour trip, it was torrential, unwavering thunderstorms. And number two, given that it was a bus full of high school-aged young men, the topics of conversation during that trip cannot be shared with this audience. I can only imagine the strain that trip took on Michael. And I'm sure there were moments of doubt, tiredness, testiness, anxiety, definitely prayer. But if I know Michael, I know that he was never distracted. He never took his eye off the road, and he was determined to get those boys to their destination, safe and sound, so they could play. He has carried heavier burdens for us. He's felt moments of doubt, anxiety, stress, and he has prayed for us. He showed us every day that he's never distracted, always determined to get us to the next destination, to get us there safe and sound, so that our students could get the most out of their experience. He gives his advantage. We talk a lot at Chevrolet about being a person for and with others. There's a difference between showing up for that mission and being the very definition of it. Michael, you are the definition of it. At the end of April, Dan Costigan lost his sister, Mary. By all accounts, Mary was a magnetic and incredible person. I honestly wish I knew her. When Michael heard the news, he went to Dan's office. Finding it empty, he picked up the phone. When Dan answered, Michael knew exactly what to say. I'll keep those words between the two of them. But after that, no more words were needed. Dan described the rest of the call as beautifully awkward. Just the tears and emotion of two men. But he knew that Michael was giving him his love and Dan was sending it right back. You see, Michael's ability to give his love has always been his advantage. And Michael, by giving us that love for all these years, you've showed us the way to God. You have been the living action of the universal apostolic preferences. You just had a head start by about 30 years before they were delivered to the rest of us in 2019. And it is time for this community to lift the burdens you carry in your heart for us. We simply ask that you please keep all of the joys from it along the way. And before you come up here and get all emotional, because I know you will, I want you to hear some words from your family, Deb, Brian, and Kelsey. They would like you to, and I'm going to quote Deb here, they would like you to get this through your little noggin. Enjoy life. Do not feel that work is the end-all be-all. You've done enough. You are and always been more than enough. Everyone that has passed through your life, whether a student, a friend, a colleague, or a teacher, is better for having MSK in their corner. Realize the good things you've done and know that you are admired. We are so proud of you. Mr. Komich, it has been the greatest honor to share this experience with you. Michael, you are the result of God's friendship. MSK, thank you for giving us every advantage for 35 years. And Comey, we love you.
That's my Cairo City 2 roommate. More about that later. Good evening, family, friends, colleagues, past and present. Bishop Ruggieri, thank you for joining us tonight as the leader of Maine's Catholic Church. I appreciate your presence tonight. Past President Reverend George E. Collins, S.J., who made the trip up from Beantown. Thank you very much for being here. Principal John H.R. Mullen, who I served alongside of for many years. Thank you for being here. Former Director of Admissions Jack Dawson and Bethany Hanley, who I've served with for many years. Thank you. As well as Diane Baker, Chris Humphrey, Reverend John Predmore, S.J. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. It's easy to do. We have over 150 guests here. So welcome, students, alumni, guests, families, friends, colleagues, past and present. My college teammates, Dave, Sean, Charlie, my good friend Ron. So I appreciate your sacrifice of time with busy spring schedules to attend tonight's recognition of service of Father Pecoraro, our president, Dr. Gary Nielsen, our director of information technology, and myself, Senior Vice President for Finance and Operations. My remarks tonight will remain within the time parameters set by our Institutional Advancement Department, so rest easy. I will try not to drone on and bore you. The remarks have 4 parts: thanks, atonement, reflection, and the future. Thanks. First, this isn't going to go well. I'd like to begin with the person who often does not take center stage, nor is often first on the thank you list at such events by her own choosing. My wife of 41 years, after 7 years of courtship while she was discerning, Debbie. Please note her nails. She went all out on tonight's occasion. I would clearly not be standing here after 35 years, 7+ months of service without her in my life. In 1990, she gave me the nod to accept the position of business manager for Cheverus High School and selflessly held the fort with our 2 young children, then aged 4 and 1, working 2 part-time jobs to help pay the bills and maintain a home that took 9 months to sell. When she finally arrived in our new home in 1991, she became the rock upon which my fortress was built, reminding me of my God-given talents on those days when I doubted I could do what Cheverus needed me to do. Pointed out when I was often becoming too curt, succinct, and professional after a day at the office. And finally, when it was time to put work away and be present to her and our family. She has suffered intense caregiving and the loss of both of her parents over the past 14 months. Yet, her support of me has been unwavering. Thank you, Debbie. Second, to our 2 Cheverian children, Ryan, class of '05, firefighter, EMT, husband to Stephanie, father of Scarlett and Augustus, son-in-law and valued son. Kelsey, class of 2007, never look at Kelsey when you're giving a talk in front of a large group. That has some emotion. Social worker, wife to Gustavo, daughter-in-law, and precious daughter who traveled here from D.C. Both Ryan and Kelsey are Debbie and my monuments. Are truly people for others and make a profound difference in people's lives in their respective worlds each day. Cheverus High School helped them to do this fine work that they do today. Third, to my heavenly parents. Elizabeth T. Komich, from whom I got my devout faith. A teacher aide, devoted churchgoer, and supporter of the then UFH channel TV 56 weekly Mass in Boston, with Mass cards sent to deceased members, and relatives of family to support the TV Mass, a tradition I carry to this day with our own Mass card program at the Loyola Hall Chapel. Mom, thank you for the gift of my faith I carry with me each day. And Stanley A. Comich, from whom I received all of my business acumen in my body, a director of purchasing for New England Confectionery Company in Cambridge, Massachusetts, the maker of the Necco wafers. I honor him tonight by reaching an age he never saw, drawing Social Security that he never realized, and poised at some point in the future to draw a pension he would never benefit from. He died too early. Dad, I offer all of these in your honor with the gifts you gave me. Fourth, to my heavenly parents-in-law, Beatrice and Boyce Jackson, who were my earthly support system for 40-plus years after my parents died when I was 27, leaving me an orphan. Fifth, to the presidents, of which there were 9, the last of which, Reverend Robert J. Pecoraro, S.J., who always told me, Michael, you can work here as long as you like. I have always appreciated that vote of confidence, Father. And no, I will not have to push you around in a wheelchair sipping liquid out of a cup. We both made it this far. Sixth, to the early men of Chevres, past trustees, David Toomey Jr., who was on the committee that hired me. Not a bad hire, 35 years, 7 months, pretty good odds. Thank you. Mark Googans, Jim Ward, Jim Kilbride, deceased, Peter Turner, deceased, John Lefevre, Brian Dudley, Kevin Gildart, Jim Crocker, Peter LaMontagne, John Richardson, Nate Braun, Michael Chinquette, and Sean Hawthorne, just to name a few, all alumni who loved their school, as well as Bob Nanovic and Jim Hanley, not alums, but as dedicated to the school as one and all, who have helped surround me to give me the confidence to succeed when circumstances proved challenging, soon to be followed by the women of Chevres, Meg Florentine, Beth Dobson, Marianne Lynch, and Peggy Chinquette, to name a few. Finally, and certainly not least, my team. Dot St. Hilaire, who has worked with me for 25 years. Michelle Dumont, Dr. Gary Nielsen, Nadine Sautel, Marianne Latini, Jean Coffin, Spencer Tuttle, Diane, Ellen, Mary, and Carrie. As often I say, I cannot do my job without them doing theirs. I've often said 2 things that must absolutely happen correctly to maintain the morale of the school. Payroll and dining services must be happening correctly, timely, and without fail. And to my team, led by those people I mentioned, they've been able to do that. Atonement. Many 12-step programs in our state made a list of all persons we have harmed and became willing to make amends to them all, except when to do so would injure them or others. Why I have been blessed by God to live a life free from substance addiction or abuse, this step provides an important lesson to me. So for every colleague, past or present, that I have ever called or emailed about work at an inappropriate time, elevated my voice, never yelling, in animation, closed a door that should remain open, or referred to you as a predecessor, my way of coping with the loss of a colleague who I miss, I wish to take this occasion to apologize. Reflection. When I accepted the offer of employment in September of 1990, I was soon after greeted by a letter from Reverend John W. Keegan, S.J., not the president who hired me. letting me know that the actual enrollment of the school was 30 students lower than when I accepted the position, and that there would be an immediate deficit of at least $120,000 to reckon with. How wonderful. Upon arriving to campus, I learned that we had had 6 presidents in 10 years, were losing 24 students a year, and had a $1 million endowment managed by 2 portfolio managers, one growth and one value, with verbal instructions not to lose the money. Also on campus at the time were bulldozers, steam shovels, and trucks, building the first track and grass turf field project and scoreboard. How symmetrical my career has become as we prepare soon to open a $3.4 million athletic turf field project next month, with a press box, a scoreboard, and a pristine new turf surface. After introducing myself and making a few comments about what I'd hoped to accomplish at an all-employee meeting, a man rose from the back of the room and uttered, "That sounds like the words of a hatchet man from Boston sent to cut jobs." While I didn't engage the man as a newcomer, I did politely phone him the next morning to let him know that if unfair comments were again uttered in public, I felt the need that I would politely and respectfully respond. He replied, quite surprisingly, "I meant what I said and I won't take it back." Okay, imagine that. A few days later, I was taking a bio break at church, and a man leaned in and said, "When are you going to fix that football team at Chevrolet?" Still reeling, I next attended the 40th birthday party of a friend. When I was introduced to a guest and extended my hand, the response was, "I won't shake your hand. Chevrolet has been recruiting my student athletes for years." Soon after, a board meeting introduced me to Province Treasurer Reverend Thomas J. Gibbons, S.J., who proclaimed that he had found a typo in one of my financial reports, and therefore he was rejecting the findings of all of my reports. There were many tough nights in those early years. In later years, as things turned around, he would write me notes of support with the salutation, "Michael, dear," and would say, "You've saved the school," which wasn't true. It was a collective effort. In March of 2020, COVID loomed. The state was shut down. The city was on curfew. I was designated essential personnel and reported to campus each day to receive the mail, scan and transmit correspondence to colleagues working remotely at home, make a daily bank deposit run, and let outside repair personnel in the buildings on occasion, adorned in my mask and gloves. A single groundskeeper toiled outside so that our athletic fields did not deteriorate, while I did so inside. During that 3-month period, my thoughts drifted to the 1971 movie Omega Man, starring Charlton Heston, a military officer alone in a city that has fallen victim to a plague. Clinging to his tenacity for survival through improvisation, I found inspiration in the weekly trips to BJ's for hand sanitizer and wipes. The bi-weekly trips halfway to and from a team member's house to manage accounts payable and to enjoy socialization from our numerous daily and weekly virtual meetings. Through Father Pecoraro and Dr. Moran's leadership, our school persevered and even thrived, first remotely and then live, and yes, the Omega Man survived too. But with a valuable lesson learned, how the most unanticipated circumstance could make our school fragile, and how those who work and love our school must always strive to keep all the key pillars of enrollment, institutional advancement, budget management, and other stewardship fiduciary care measures strong so that Chevrolet has a bright future. The common thread of these experiences spaced decades apart was that every time despair and despondency set in, spiritual guidance would appear to me and circumstances would improve. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of attending, as Nate said, Kairos 82, an intense 4-day experience with 45 juniors, male and female, student and adult leaders. I won't delve into the details and would encourage all of you who have not attended Kairos to look into it and to do so. But suffice it to say, I was empowered enough by the experience to have my first confession in 45 years. Maybe working with priests since 1990 made me shy with the sacrament. But this experience overcame that and pushed me forward. There are many parents of Shavarians in the room, current, past. The main takeaway for me was that our students are valued, cherished, appreciated, and never alone. This is one of the things that makes this Jesuit apostolate special and so important in the lives of our young men and young women who are taught each day to be people for and with others. The future. I know not what my professional future holds. For the first time in 35 years, 7 months plus. But this I do know. For over a third of my life, the mission of this school was a centerpiece, and soon that will change. From time to time, my SVP seat was decidedly uncomfortable, and sometimes out of discomfort comes positive outcomes. So as I close, I ask all of you in this room tonight to consider discomfort on behalf of this worthwhile apostolic work, whether it is donating your time, your talents, your treasure on behalf of the school, or convincing someone else in your circle to do so. It is worth it. A school which I will still follow and care about, but will not be standing a watch for. This is where you come in. Cheverus needs you and needs us all as we navigate its second century to remain both alive and thrive. Thank you.
I have to be able to see you, Michael. You know, Michael, your college friends are way too disclosive to people like me. So one of the things that Michael had in college was a radio show. It was called the Wild Bill and Comey Sports Hour. I want you to picture Michael on the Wild Bill and Comey Sports Hour. Michael, there's no way we could ever thank you for your service at Cheverus. You talked about how part of what you've done here has come full circle in that your first project at this school was a turf field project of down below, and we're going through that project right now. The Cheverus community has come together in a way to honor you. As part of that stadium project, we want to honor your love for this school, your love for sports, and for these young men and women. And when finished, as part of that project, the school's press box will be named the Michael S. Comich Press Box. And I think for all of you, you know these things don't happen by accident. They get support from alumni, from teachers, from friends, from family. I've had the opportunity to call some of these supporters and ask for, to make this reality. Michael, I have not spoken to a single person who said the word no. 100% of the people I have talked to have said something along the lines of course, I'll do anything for Michael. We love you, and we want you to know that. And I look forward to 10 years from now, 15 years from now, bringing my son Max or my son Henry to that field and telling them about that man that press box is named after. Michael, thank you. You can't forget this. Does it really work?
Yeah, it really works. I mean, I didn't test it.
This way?
Great job. Going back to our President's Circle event last fall, I've had the opportunity to thank Father Pecoraro for his support, his guidance, and friendship over the past 9 years of working together. During his years on Ocean Avenue, Father Bob has served as the spiritual leader of our school, staffing or attending virtually every Kairos retreat. He's made himself available to local parishes and ministries to help spread Cheverus's reach to other parts of our Catholic community. And I've always said one of his greatest gifts as Cheverus's president is that of a homilist with the ability to connect with 14 to 18-year-old young women and men at Mass. No easy feat in this day and age. Another big part of Father Pecораro's legacy has been his commitment to making Cheverus more accessible to a greater number of students and families. Each spring, he has been part of tuition assistance meetings with Cheverus families in order to figure out how we can stretch our dollars as far as possible and tailor fit them to each family's particular needs. With his hands-on approach to the work of financial aid, not always the most glamorous or comfortable work, Father Bob has embodied our spirit of Cura Personalis. There is another part of Father Bob's legacy that is yet to be fully celebrated. For the past several years, Father Bob has been working with the Board of Trustees and our Cheverus advancement team to build a base of financial support unprecedented in our school's history. If you've been keeping up with our media posts and publications, you know that support for our Cheverus Fund has increased by 55% under Father Bob's tenure. What you may not know is that while achieving this, we have been quietly raising funds from dedicated alumni, parents, grandparents, and friends, and business partners for capital initiatives that will transform our facilities and strengthen our endowment. With Father Bob's leadership, we've put a shovel in the ground and nearly completed the construction of a new turf field, the first such capital improvement on our campus in 20 years. With the final phase of this campaign, our next project will be to transform our current cafeteria and theater space from its circa 1950s charm to a modernized facility for our 21st century needs. Our chapel will always be the spiritual heart of our campus. But our cafeteria is where our students gather to break bread every day. And our drama program is already winning statewide recognition and deserves a theater to match its talent. So tonight, I have the privilege of publicly announcing that Cheverus is engaged in a $15 million comprehensive campaign, and that Father Pecoraro and our advancement team have already secured $12 million towards that goal. Please join me in thanking Father Bob for leading this critical initiative that has positioned us to continue and prosper in the years to come. To share more about Father Bob's legacy as president of Cheverus, it is my pleasure to introduce Cheverus alum, parent, and former chair of our Board of Trustees, Mr. Peter Lamontagne.
Bishop Ruggieri, Father Bob, faculty, staff, alumni, students, honored guests, good evening to all. I'm going to go off script a little bit and mention a few things. You know, it was so impressive to hear some of the anecdotes. I don't know that there are any schools in Maine or really many places in the world, and I had the privilege as chair of the Board of Trustees to attend Jesuit school conferences, Catholic school conferences, private school conferences. And where do you hear such testimony of personal faith and love for each other, discussion of receiving the sacrament of reconciliation so openly. Cheverus is a remarkable place. A couple other just really fun things. I'll go with a couple more Michaelisms. I think one, the Gymicafetorium, which is going to be the site of this new wonderful place, which is where I met my wife, Lynn, in that Gymicafetorium. She was a Macaulay girl, and I was a Cheverus kid, and I couldn't sing or act, but we knew we might have a chance at meeting some Macaulay girls, so we went there and we did that. And so that gym for us is a great memory. I'm thrilled that it's going to find a new life. And Michael, on Necco wafers, again, this is a sharing faith moment. Lynn told me about when she was little, like really First Communion, they used to practice with Necco wafers, giving and administering the Holy Eucharist. So it's really, really funny how all these things come around. And I agree, the heart of the campus is our chapel, and so many of us have great memories. But also the field that's being built, when you think about looking across at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception across the bay. And this juxtaposition, to me, is just very, very moving. And I always think about that when I'm on campus or when I'm at the cathedral. And finally, I just want to say a special greeting to the Board of Trustees. I miss you all and the work we accomplished together, and also the Christian Fellowship of the board. I know the Board of Trustees and Cheverus are doing very well under Chairman Jim Hanley. His leadership is inspiring, and it's wonderful to see both Jim, you, and Beth. So thank you for all you do for Cheverus. This is a wonderful time of year to celebrate our community. So much hope and positivity as the greens of spring remind us of fresh starts and growth. Seniors are transitioning to the Arupe projects, and the underclassmen prepare for their elevation to the next level in their journey to be young men and women for and with others. And of course, again, congratulations to Doc Nielsen and also to Michael. Jane and Erica and Nate certainly did an amazing job articulating how these men offered so much of their lives to the Cheverus community and its most important mission. All 5 of Lynn and my wonderful children, all students, benefited from Gary and Michael's stewardship, love, as well as all the other faculty here who supported them. And we are truly grateful. It's my privilege now to say a few words in honor of Father Robert Pecoraro. When Father Bob transitions to his new assignment at Boston College, and hopefully everybody knows that it's okay to mention that, Father. Yeah, that's good. He will have completed 9 years as president of our dear alma mater. His tenure is tied for the second longest since World War II, which he has been here a long time in a wonderful way. And we kind of started at the same time, I on the board, and then and it was just it's been a wonderful, wonderful almost decade. We celebrate Father Bob tonight for his leadership, his commitment to Cheverus, and his pastoral care. During his tenure, close to 1,000 students have matriculated and graduated to be fine young men and women in the Catholic, Jesuit, and Cheverus tradition. And as has been already mentioned, financially and administratively, he has helped the school thrive. In every category of development, the school is better now than at any time in modern history. Just take a look at the work being done on the field, and those plans for the theater are amazing. And as was mentioned by Nate, always mindful of those most in need. During Father Bob's tenure, student aid reached its highest level ever. And the staff and faculty have never been more professional or successful. As always, Father Bob will credit the Holy Spirit and his team for these successes, but he has been at the helm. And these achievements didn't just happen. The accomplishments are the direct result of 2 cycles of strategic planning and excellent tactical execution that I witnessed every single meeting with Father Bob and every single engagement. And all of this happened, as was mentioned, in the face of a pandemic, shifting demographics in the value of Catholic education, and so many other challenges that Father Bob led us through successfully. And as we all learn to pray at Cheverus, Father Bob never counted the costs, even as Michael checked the expenses. So for Father Bob, for all you have done, on behalf of our entire community, thank you. However, while all these accomplishments are impressive, it's not why Father Bob has been here. Rather, his primary role has been as director of the work. In the Jesuit tradition, every school, every ministry, every apostolic institution is called simply the work. Not a business, not a brand, not a monument to any one person, but to a work entrusted by God to the society of Jesus, and through the society to the man or woman called to lead it. The director of the work is first and foremost a steward, someone who holds the mission in trust, not for himself, but for God, for the church, and for the young men and women who call Cheverus their home. The director of the work is responsible for something far deeper than budgets and buildings, although Father Bob, with the able help of Michael and everyone at the school, has certainly excelled in these areas, as I mentioned earlier. He's responsible for ensuring that the school remains what Ignatius of Loyola intended, a place where young people are known, challenged, and formed in mind, body, spirit, and character. They learn to love God. Father Bob has helped make Cheverus a place where all are called to excellence for the greater glory of God, the Magus. The great Jesuit, Father Pedro Arrupe, captured the heart of Jesuit Catholic education when he said simply and beautifully, "Fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything." For 9 years, Father Bob Pecoraro has been in love with our school, with our students, and with our mission. And that love has indeed decided everything. Every student accepted, every exam administered, every financial aid decision, every dollar raised, every mass celebrated, every confession heard, every student sent forth from Cheverus into the world to be an adult for and with others, all decided in love. And I personally want to thank Father Bob for his spiritual direction. I've grown in faith as God's love was reflected through Father Bob and directly to me. And so tonight, as we embark on a new chapter in Cheverus's history, I choose not to be fearful or saddened that Cheverus will not be led by a Jesuit next year as president. Rather, I feel confidence and joy that our faith foundation is rock solid, in large part due to the past 9 years and the work that Father Bob and the team have accomplished. And I have every confidence that Dr. Moran will lead us into a new and prosperous era, one that will remain Catholic and Jesuit at its core and remain faithful to the work. As a faithful director of the work, Father Bob poured himself into Cheverus completely. And now, in true Jesuit fashion, you go where you are sent with our profound gratitude and our prayers. Boston College gains a remarkable man, and Cheverus, though we will feel your absence acutely, is stronger, deeper in faith, and more fully itself because of the 9 years that you gave us. So, Father Bob, on behalf of the faculty, staff, parents, alumni, and especially the nearly 1,000 young men and women whose lives you shaped, we thank you. We are grateful to God for your priesthood, your leadership, and your love for this work. Ad majorem Dei Gloria. Father Bob.
Thank you, Peter, for your kind words, for your time on the board. 8 years in total, 5 as chair, and for your guidance and friendship during my time at Cheverus. I'll be forever grateful for the things we have accomplished together at Cheverus, along with the Board of Trustees and the faculty and staff, for the students of Cheverus High School, who are truly our mission. I never wanted to be an administrator. I started my first business when I was 24, and my second when I was 28. And at 33, I entered the Jesuits to be a priest and do pastoral work. But we plan, and God laughs. And each administrative assignment had a reason for me being there. After I was ordained, I spent a year in a parish, and the provincial came to visit. And he said, and I fell in love with parish work. I fell in love with being a pastoral priest. And the provincial came and he said, what are you thinking about for next year? I said, oh, that's easy. I want to stay here at the parish. It's great. Pastoral work is fantastic. And that provincial was a very pragmatic man. And he said, but you know, we spent so much on that degree in Catholic education leadership. We got to get a return on the investment. And he sent me to Canisius High School to be their vice president for mission and identity. And it was a wonderful time, and I fell in love with the work at Canisius. And he came 3 years later, and he said, how are things going here? And I said, great. I love it here. He said, that's good. He said, but we need a president at our high school in Chuuk, Micronesia, and I'd like you to think about that. And this same pragmatic man was a man whose mind I knew, and I knew that that meant in provincial speak, pack your bags, you're going to Chuuk, Micronesia. But my time at Canisius, I was able to give them a good sense of Ignatian identity and build a program for them there, and the work there was done. And so I went to Chuuk, Micronesia, after looking on Google Google Earth, and typing in Chuuk, Micronesia, and just staring at blue ocean. And then I zoomed in, and I zoomed in, and I zoomed in, and then I saw a little dot with an arrow next to it that said Chuuk. And I went to Chuuk, Micronesia. And I was there for a couple of years. I got sick. I came home. And I would think I was meant to be in Chuuk because I was there to write their financial ship, which needed to be done, and then to help the island get through Typhoon Mayzak, which hit them in 2014. My friend Jack Butler, the incoming president at Boston College, jokes that I was running the country from that little school on Chuuk because we got a lot of work done to help the people of Micronesia to get through Typhoon Mayzak, and I believe that God's plan was for me to be there for that. And so I came home and I was recovering from some surgery, and I was working at the seminary in Buffalo, New York, and I was teaching in their graduate program, and I was a spiritual director, pastoral work, for about a third of their seminarians. And the provincial came, new provincial, and he said, what are you thinking about for next year? I said, you know, the seminary brought that up, and they said that I should talk to you because they have full-time work for me there, and they want me to stay there and work full-time at the seminary, teaching in the graduate school and doing spiritual direction for the seminarians. And he said, that's great, but we got one more school that needs a president. Would you mind going up to Portland, Maine, and interviewing at Cheverus High School? They need an interim president there. And I said, sure. And he said, you know, and if it doesn't work out, if it's not the right fit, let me know and we can talk about the seminary. And so I came here under the cover of darkness in January of 2017. And I met with the board search committee, and it was a great interview, and I talked to them about what Cheverus was all about, and all they told me was wonderful, and I said, oh, this sounds good. Sounds like a really good place. And then I met the executive team. I met John Moran, and I met Randy Shaw, and I met Michael Komich, and I said, okay, maybe they're not a good executive team. It sounds like the school has a good mission, but maybe three professionals who have been in the business for years and years and years who are excellent at their jobs. Oh, all right. And then I started to meet students. And I said, well, now the choice is clear. Either I have to go back home and lie to the provincial, or I have to take this job, but it's only an interim job, and they're going to hire somebody in a year anyway. And so I came up to Cheverus, and it didn't take long for me to fall in love with the school, right? To be at it when it was in full swing, to see all the great things that were going on. And there was a great beauty to it. And so I said, well, okay, I'm going to do my best for this year, and then maybe I'll go back to the seminary. They'll get a president. They'll be happy. I will have fulfilled the provincial's request. I'll be happy. Most importantly, the provincial will be happy. But 9 years later, here I am, because I think the right guy for the job might have been me. And it's been a blessing ever since. And I think the reason that I was meant to be here so long at Cheverus is because of those 11 or 9, Michael? 9 presidents that Michael worked for. The second longest, tied for second longest running president at the school. I knew that if I stayed for 10 and matched Father Keegan, he would haunt me forever. So I think 9 is the perfect number. It is so true. But I think the reason was that, I think the reason was more that I needed Cheverus than Cheverus needed me. You know, we've been able to do a lot of great things together at the school, and that's a blessing. But I'm also in a different place than I was when I came here, and have been able to fall in love with a school. You know, the poet Mary Oliver writes, "Tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life." And for the last 9 years here at Cheverus, it's been my great honor to work together with a talented faculty and staff and a dedicated board of directors to help hundreds of young men and women answer for themselves that very question. What will you do with your one wild and precious life? As Gary said, they come in as freshmen and they don't know anything. As Dan Costigan will say, they really don't know anything, but we'll teach them, Father. They'll learn. And they do, right? I've never worked at a school that got the mission the way that Cheverus does, from the board of trustees, right, to the faculty, to the staff, to, Berta, our maintenance woman, who shepherds them all, through work study. Their very first time as freshmen working with Berta, they learn that many hands make light work, right? They learn that teamwork makes the dream work, right? And that's a gift, right? That's a gift. So from our board of directors to the people that make sure that we have a safe and clean environment, the kids have people that get them and love them and want them to figure out what they are going to do with their one wild and precious life. And there's a great beauty to that. There's a great beauty to that. As has been said, I've been on many, many Kairos retreats. I think it's the best thing that Cheverus does. I think that we help young men and women find out who they are supposed to become, and part of that is the spiritual background that we have, that we give them, that we allow them to grow and nurture a relationship with God, that we allow them to grow and nurture and figure out who they are and who they are meant to be. And there's a great beauty to that, and I've been blessed for 9 years to be a part of that. I read a book some years ago called The Best CEOs Are Lazy. And the book says that if you have an executive team that is great at their job, your job becomes, and they use the metaphor of a garden hose. When you water in your garden, if the water stops flowing, what's the first thing you do? You look for kinks, right? My job is to kind of look for kinks and unkink the hose and do my best to make sure that we're all rowing in the right direction. But I've been blessed with a team that has done wonders at Cheverus High School. And Michael, when I first came, you said to me, "I think, Father, you have the street smarts and the book smarts to get Cheverus to where it needs to be." And I've tried to do that every moment of every day. And I am blessed that we are celebrating together, and Gary, that we're celebrating together. You from the little island on the east coast of Manhattan, me from the tiny island next to it, Staten Island. You know, we're island people. At least that's what I used to tell them in Chuk. I grew up on an island too. But this has been a blessing and a gift to me in my life as a Jesuit. It's the longest assignment I've ever had. It's the 8th time I'm moving in my career as a Jesuit, but the thing I learned a long time ago is I know it is the first time that I am leaving you all. And I am grateful for all you've been to me and all you've done for me in my time here. You know, I knew about 2 years ago when the province started the apostolic planning process that I was going to be the last Jesuit president at Chevres. And I kind of got in a little bit of an existential crisis. I was saying, all right, I'm not going to be here much longer. Have I done everything? Have I done what needs to be done at Chevres? Have I completed what needs to be completed? I just don't know. And we were at the tailgate party at Boston College 2 years ago. And some freshmen, college freshmen from Chevres, alums of Chevres, came up to me and said, hey, can we take a picture with you? And I said, yeah, sure. And it was a young gentleman and 2 girls, and the gentleman and one of the girls was on one side, and the other girl was on my left side. And just as they're about to take the picture, the girl on my left leans over and whispers into my ear, thank you for teaching me how to make good decisions at Chevres. It's made all the difference in my life. Existential crisis solved, right? I think we've done everything we've needed to do, and we continue to do that each and every day for our students at Chevres, right? And your support and your connection and all you do for Chevres, whether you're working in the school, you're supporting the school, you're happy about the school's existence, whatever, if you're a friend of the school, that's what we're all about, right? Thanks for teaching me how to make good decisions in life. It's made all the difference. Because the poet Alberto Rios writes, we can build a house called tomorrow. What we bring finally into the new day every day is ourselves. And that's all we need to start. And that's everything we require to keep going. Because when young men and women find out who their authentic self is, and when we live our authentic lives and we can be our authentic selves, it only happens when God is part of the equation. And that young woman and all the other students who have come and gone from Chevres figured out who their authentic self is. And they're living that out in the world. And that's all they're going to need, right? Because that will bring them community, and that will keep them close to God, and that will keep them connected, right? To be a positive force in the world. And maybe that's the greatest blessing that Chevres gives. And there's been a lot of work that we've done together over these last 9 years, and it wasn't always easy, right? But I always knew I had 3 guys I could go to, Michael, John, Randy, to talk to work through things, to bounce things off of, to put up with me when I'm not at my best, and to help me to be my best. And I'll leave you with this. Many years ago, I went to Omaha, Nebraska to visit my friend Tom. He's a Jesuit. He was the president of Creighton Preparatory School, the Jesuit high school in Omaha, Nebraska. I went to visit him. And if you haven't been to Omaha, Nebraska, there isn't a lot to do there. I did, however, go to Father Flanagan's Boys Town to tour the place. It was founded over 100 years ago by Father Flanagan to help at-risk youth and families through life-changing programs like residential care, counseling, crisis support, community services, and it's been running still to this day. And in the gift shop, I picked up a little card that had Father Flanagan's picture on it and a quote on the back. And I'll leave you with these words of Father Flanagan. I know the work will continue because I know the work was never mine to begin with. God bless you all.
We'll drop it there. Father's the only honoree that didn't have a chair. So we got him one to take to Boston College with him. Thank you. Many thanks again to our advancement team. Thanks to our presenters. And how about one more round of applause for Gary, Michael, and Father Bob for all they've done for us. All right, it's a school night, people. There is some food over there. Thanks to everyone. Have a great night.